Are we dancing on air over the shows we saw this time around?
Abington Theatre presents The Boy Who Danced on Air, music by Tim Rosser, book and lyrics by Charlie Sohn, and music direction by David Gardos. It's unusual to encounter a truly cringe-worthy musical. The Boy Who Danced on Air is one of that rare breed. The subject is about Afghani married men who buy these boys from their parents to have them dance for them and perform sex acts so that their relationships with their women could be moral. It's pretty awful in itself, but the production is even more abysmal than the subject. One of the moments is so bad it's laughable. The boy is dancing when he's shot in the foot. I think the death rattle of a dying dog would be less painful to watch. This one gets a true unhappy face.
Annie Baker's The Antipodes is an inexplicable yet intriguing play. The story takes place in a conference room where 6 people are working for Sandy, confessing their personal stories for inspiration. They are all happy and feel lucky to have this job, but we are never quite sure what the job or purpose of these stories are, or why they are trying to come up with an original monster that doesn't involve trolls, dwarves, or midgets. I looked up Antipodes in the dictionary. It means that which is diametrically opposed to another. This doesn't help explain the play or the cover of the program with some weird creature on it. However, it doesn't matter that nothing made sense or was explained because the stories they told were so entertaining, and I do love fairy tales and mythologies. This definitely falls under the weird but enjoyable category. If you just let the stories and odd doings just wash over you in a non sequitur sort of way, then I think you will enjoy this too. Happy face!
Also at the signature Pershing Square Theatre is New Group's presentation of the Whirligig, written by Hamish Linklater, directed by Scott Elliott. 23-year-old Julie is dying from stage 5 non-Hodgkin's cancer exacerbated by years of being a junkie. Her doctor, Patrick, can do nothing more for her. She goes home to her father, Norbert Leo Butts' home. He's an alcoholic. His ex-wife, who was once suicidally depressed but now on good meds, is staying there as well. There's everybody in the world of this small Massachusetts town seems to be related in some way to this girl's story. It doesn't quite work for me, although the performances are good. It's almost 2.5 hours, and it could easily have been an hour-and-a-half play.
Yeah, Hamish Linklater did a much better job with this other play he did with Deidre O'Connell and Noah, and there was a ghost in the cemetery. I love that one. So he's going 1 for 1 now. I mean, I go from weird but enjoyable to a WTF play.
He's a really good actor.
Yeah, and he can be a good writer too, just not in this one. This one made no sense. Nothing was really explained. It was all like, you're like, oh, wondering like, how did she end up in this mess in the first place? And it just...
That's what they tried to explore, but it didn't quite.
And the relationships didn't work. And I mean, again, I'll give a happy face for the acting, of course, but the play itself just fell short for me.
The always inventive Red Bull Theatre is presenting The Government Inspector, adapted by Jeffrey Hatcher from a Nikolai Gogol play. It's directed by Jesse Berger. And Michael Urie is this wastrel and low-level clerk who's mistaken by this whole corrupt town somewhere in provincial Russia in 1836. They believe he's a high-level government inspector, so they're treating him super well. They keep giving him bribes. The mayor and his wife is played by Mary Testa, and she's described as looking like an enormous lamp in a whorehouse, and it's a really hilarious production, but it's on 2 levels, and most of the action happens above, so you really don't want to be seated in the front few rows. Further back is the best. It's a great play, it's a great comedy, and beautiful production. I'm giving it a happy face.
Robert Patrick's Kennedy's Children is an historical play now about how the 60s affected the 70s. It's 1974 in a seedy bar where 5 different types reflect on their life and times through monologues. Carla wants to be a sex goddess like Marilyn Monroe and was quite broken up when she died. Wanda is a fashion editor and talks about the time when they learned Kennedy was shot and how much he admires John and Jackie. Mark was in the Vietnam War and how it messed with his head. Rhoda is a freewheeling hippie protester who bounces between New York City and San Francisco with her husband trying to make a difference. And Sparger is an underground actor, and his story was the most familiar and fascinating for me, as he was ostensibly talking about Cafe Chino, but here it was called Opera Buffo. The bartender steps in as various characters that relate to the 5 denizens of the bar. The superior cast captures the essence of the play, and I really felt like I had stepped back in time, and yet we are facing the same problems still of inequality, war, substance abuse, and trying to make a difference in the face of constant disillusionment. And the actress who inspired the part of the hippie, she was in the audience that night, which was so cool. So Happy Face, more on Facebook.
New York Neo-Futurist presents a simple art conceived and directed by Alex Vlahov, created, written, and performed by him along with Nessa Norwich and Kira Sims. On New Year's Eve 2014, Father Eric Fried of Eureka, California was murdered. Father Fried was the chaplain at St. Francis High School, where Alex Vlahov was a student. Based on interviews with police attorneys, friends, and family of the priest and reporter, Vlahov and company explored the circumstances of the murder. It's not a whodunit. From the beginning, we know who the killer was, but it's a kind of, why could this happen in our society? And it's important to note that Eureka is kind of the marijuana capital of the United States. It's a great place to grow it, and that's what the whole economy is based on.
And we should say it's also based on, did you say it was based on a Raymond Chandler?
Well, the title is from the Raymond Chandler, The Simple Art of Murder.
And what it is, though, is it's a very brutal, really, really brutal murder. It's horrible. And it's interesting. We love the New York Neo-Futurists. They're just brilliant the way they put on productions. Because they also have these little essays going on about various, like, Indian, Native American events and things.
Yeah, it's the whole history of that part of the country.
Yeah, so you get these, like, interesting facts and the murder. And the way they show the characters is, like, with a newspaper and glasses and bow tie and a badge and cell phone, whiskey glass, red pen, coffee cup, and oven mitt. And at one point, they give out coffee and toast to the audience, which I really appreciated.
They were drinking whiskey, which we didn't get. But the coffee and toast were wonderful.
But this, again, this was weird but enjoyable, but more actually enjoyable than
and
even weird.
And informative, actually.
Yeah, and it was just so well put together. It was really fascinating, the whole thing.
And they're not into illusion. So they're not trying to pretend to be these characters, and they really make a point about that. But we still learn a lot, as much as we would in any kind of more realistic illusionist play.
And they really bring the whole story to life. You can actually see it before your eyes while they're describing it.
So Happy Face Minus.
Abram Hill's first play written for his newly established American Negro Theater on Strivers Row is a snappy, snippy play about snobs. The Strivens are throwing a fancy coming-out party for their daughter, and Mrs. Striven is forced to invite a cook-turned-rich from a sweepstakes to the party. Differences between the classes are eliminated. This is my favorite play that Metropolitan Playhouse has unearthed from their rich treasures of the past. The witty dialogue is fast and furiously snarky. This is an incredibly large and gifted cast inhabiting the tiny stage of Metropolitan Playhouse. Set designer Trevor Eastwood and costume designer Sidney Fortner have done a spectacular job of transforming everything and everybody into an elegant, fancy soiree. This is a play that is rich in material and poor if you miss this. Major Happy Face, more on Facebook. There's power struggles between frenemies. It's fun.
Recently, Scott Siegel presented Broadway by the Year 1997 to 2006 at the Town Hall. Not my favorite period for Broadway, but there were many exciting things. I was a little disappointed that Emily Skinner couldn't make it, but Stephanie DeBrusso took her place, singing, among other things, her song, A Fine, Fine Line Between Love and a Waste of Time from Avenue Q. Brian Charles Rooney was there. He did I Walk the Line, Next Best Thing to Love, and a lot of other great things. There was also Christina Bianco doing Gimme Gimme, and a wonderful Total Eclipse of the Heart where she imitates many other people, and it's sort of a homage to them. Coming up On June 19th is Broadway Musicals 2007 to 2016, and in July on the 10th we have Broadway's Rising Stars. So always good things from Scott Siegel and Company.
Glenn Close has come back for her close-up in Andrew Lloyd Webber's Sunset Boulevard, where down on his luck screenwriter Joe Gillis arrives at her place trying to escape the repo man and ends up being a kept man and getting entangled in the lives of her servant Max and writing this dreadful self-indulgent screenplay of Salome, which thinks she's going to make her come back with this. And so you have, it's one of these old movie kind of things. You know, it was done with William Holden and Gloria Swanson in the past.
And it's set in 1950, and C.B. DeMille plays an extremely important role. And it turns out that Norma thinks he wants her, but it's just one of his underlings wants her car. Sad story.
Yes. Anyway, after we're done with all the reviews, I talked to Michael Xavier at the Stars in the Alley, so we'll have a little clip of that, and a little bit from Nancy Anderson, who's got a part in this too. But, you know, it was sort of like a concert version. The band is on the stage. It's very dark lighting. The costumes are amazing. But I like this better than the first time I saw it, and I even like the music. I'm not an Andrew Lloyd Webber, but it has some couple of really, I mean, that one song she sings, her anthem song, when she returns to the studio, like, I'm back again. I was crying. I mean, you know, it's...
She's an amazing actress, and it's kind of a very operatic musical that works. So I was glad to see it again.
And I should say that Michael Xavier plays Joe Gillis. I mean, oh my God, he's gorgeous. Total eye candy. I'm just, oh.
He's okay.
Anyway, I get the last word. Happy face minus.
S Marathon series of one-act plays continues with Series B, which I saw, which, again, it's 5 short plays and well worth seeing them all, but the best was Disney and Fujikawa, written by Lloyd Sue, in which an American-Japanese woman who worked for Disney before is talking with him in New York during World War II. They're both idealists about wanting to create a better world, but she sort of lets him know that he doesn't understand a lot about what it means to be an other, a Japanese-American person in the war. Also great was Linus and Murray, in which Murray is a dog played by Kern Connor, and Linus is a cat played by one of my favorite, DeBargo Sanyal. So this was a really good collection. It's going on through June 26th. Series C goes from June 10th through June 30th, and Eva already reviewed Series A, so try to get to see Est. It's always interesting stuff and a really good collection of shows.
Another good series of plays is Club Thumb, Summer Works. We saw The World My Mama Raised, which we were not that thrilled with. You can still review on the Facebook page. And coming up next is of Government, and then What the Constitution Means to Me. The beauty of these summer work shows put on by Obie Wynn and Club Thumb is that the authors get to see their plays up and running and how best to fix them so that it can go on to bigger productions, like last year's favorite, which was, to me, Men on Boats. So even though we hated the first one, I'm looking forward to the next 2 ones. And you'll find our reviews on Facebook, because we might not get to it on time.
And even though, you know, again, it wasn't that horrible, it just needs a lot of rework, and it's great to go to the Weill Project, and Summer Works is always something I look forward to every summer. So please go. I'm giving it, you know, Summer Works itself a happy face.
Me too. Mark and I saw Ernest Shackleton Loves Me at Second Stage. It's written by Joe DiPietro, and music is composed by Brendan Milburn with lyrics by Val Vigoda, directed by Lisa Peterson. In Ernest Shackleton Loves Me, Kat, a single mom trying to make a living as an experimental musician in Brooklyn, imagines a relationship with explorer Ernest Shackleton after she has been up 36 hours. His eternal optimism, despite all odds, inspires her to continue in her struggle. Her deadbeat baby daddy is off touring in a Journey cover band. Is it better to stay with someone who doesn't believe in you or keep the memory alive of someone who does? It's got Val Vigoda, Wade McCullum, Blue Lily people. Mark and I both give this a happy face. We both enjoyed this much more on Facebook. And now I got a chance to talk to Celia Berk and Sidney Myers at his establishment, Don't Tell Mamas, to talk about That's Entertainment, Dietz and Schwartz, going on at Carnegie Hall right now in the Weill Recital Hall. And he talks, because he performs a lot with Richard Skipper, celebrates, and that's going on at Laurie Beachman right now. And on our next show, June 24th, we will talk to them again about this wonderful benefit that's going on, and where Sidney Myers is the booking agent of Don't Tell Mamas. Here we are at Don't Tell Mamas to talk to Celia Berk about her upcoming concert at Carnegie Hall. That sounds so exciting.
It's thrilling. So we are, thanks to the Mabel Mercer Foundation and Katie Sullivan, I'm part of a program called Dietz and Schwartz and Friends. So it's mostly the songs of Dietz and Schwartz, a great songwriting duo. But we've each been asked to bring a song by a more contemporary songwriter as well. So I've been given a song by Katie, a Dietz and Schwartz song to do. And then I'm also going to be doing a song where the music was by Ronnie White and the lyrics are Francesca Blumenthal. So that's pretty good credentials for both, I think.
So what songs are you doing?
The Dietz and Schwartz are Something to Remember You By, and we've done some research on that, and it has a really good backstory. It turns out there are two versions of the music. We only know the one with Dietz, but there is another version, so I'm going to do a little snippet of that for fun. And then the Ronnie White and Francesca Blumenthal song is called The Party Upstairs, and that was in my show last year called Manhattan Serenade, all songs about life in the city, and this one's about a very noisy neighbor upstairs.
That would go well with the Ring My Bell number.
Yes, right, or Dancing on the Ceiling, or any of those songs about what else is going on in the people around you, some of whom you know, but there are so many people around us every day.
And I love your intimate phrasing of the song and your clear rendition of the lyrics. How do you find these like obscure Sondheim songs and other obscure numbers that you do?
Well, a lot of my secret weapon is my musical director and collaborator, Alex Rybeck. And between the two of us, we love to go hunting for hidden gems. And I call myself a musical truffle hound. It's very hard to stump him, but when I do stump him, I get to do what I call my happy dance, where I just take a moment to say, I actually found a song he didn't know, but he gave me Sand, the Sondheim song, and that's been something that's now been requested over and over again, and I've sung it at the Cabaret Convention at Jazz and Lincoln Center, and it was in my debut show, and it's on my first album, You Can't Rush Spring, so it's a plea.
Hello, I'm Sidney Myers, the booking manager at the world-famous Don't Tell Mama, and I will be joining Celia Berk for the Dietz and Schwartz and Friends evening.
And what will you be singing?
Well, they presented me with What Do You Do on a Rainy Night in Rio? And to find the answer to that, I guess you'll have to all come and see. I'm not sure my...
And what about your Richard Skipper celebrates events?
Well, Richard Skipper, who began here many years ago, first as Judy Garland, then as Carol Channing, and now as himself, is a fabulous entertainer who will be performing at the Laurie Beachman Theater.
On June 18th.
On June 18th, too.
And the Barbara and Scott Siegel's events are wonderful all over town. I've participated in them at Feinstein's and at Town Hall. And now, Stars in the Alley with Johanna Day and Michelle Wilson from Sweat, introducing Michael Xavier singing from Sunset Boulevard, and then a little interview with him afterwards.
Put your hands together for the Brit that is making everyone sweat. Sweat, yeah, 8 times a week at the Palace Theater in this Andrew Lloyd Webber classic. A down on his luck screenwriter, a reclusive film star that's teetering on the edge, and the sights and sounds of old Hollywood film biz come together with dramatic consequences. Starring the legendary Glenn Close and backed by a 40-piece orchestra, the largest in Broadway history.
sinking fast, I threw a coin. Now I have suits and she has home. It seemed an elegant solution. One day this must end, it isn't real. Still, I'll enjoy a hearty meal before tomorrow's execution. Sunset Boulevard, plus Boulevard, destination for the stony-hearted. Sunset Boulevard, lethal Boulevard. Everyone's forgotten how they started. They're on Sunset Boulevard.
Hello, here we are with.
Michael Xavier.
What's it feel like literally to be a pushover?
That's an interesting question. I've spent my whole life being a pushover, so it comes naturally.
And I caught up with Nancy Anderson, who's playing Johanna and is a Norma understudy. She's got a Drama Desk nominations for Inner Voices, a solo musical piece. We are with
Nancy Anderson.
who got nominated for.
I'm nominated for Best Solo Performance for The Pen as part of the Inner Voices series.
And oh my God, from a solo dramatic to being in this splashy Sunset Boulevard. I mean, that must be so 360 degrees.
Well, not only is it 360 degrees, but it is also, I'm having the best time of my life. Glenn Close could not be a more spectacular and loving leading lady, and I am deeply indebted to Lonnie Price for entrusting me with understudying her and putting me in such a glorious production.
Well, and now for a different kind of icon, a new show called The Attack of the Elvis Impersonators with Don Stevens, the director, talking about it. And here's the cast, and now we're going to get a musical selection from it. And then Mary Poppins, I have a musical selection from that. All the interviews and musical selections you can find on YouTube or on our Facebook page. More in the listings.
Thanks for coming today. Attack of the Elvis Impersonators is a brand new original musical. All original music. It is not a jukebox musical. There's not an Elvis song in sight. So there's that. It's about, I'll try to tell you briefly what it's about. It's about this mega rock star who's sort of this drugged out, really the most famous guy on earth, who is very, very famous but empty inside. He's sort of bottomed out, and he gets a visit from his childhood friend who gives him a special gift from their childhood. And this gift enables him to become the person that he always wanted to be, which is an Elvis impersonator. And when he becomes this Elvis impersonator, his fans follow him. All of his fans, his former fans, and then it sort of changes the world because they all start to follow this Elvis impersonator, and then throw in a supervillain and a sort of superhero subplot, and then you have 100% new Broadway-bound musical. So that's basically what it is, and I want to introduce, we're going to give you a couple numbers today. The first one is, in the course of the show, they do a remake of Blue Hawaii. This is a song in which shows that segment, and I want to introduce Ashley Spencer, Eric Scotto, Curtis Wiley, and the rest of the cast of Attack of the Impersonators. They say that I'm one's best friend. I'm gonna play until the end. Come on, baby, don't wanna bet. I like old man and live my leg. I'm ready to give your face a lick. Just scratch me, I'll do any trick. 'Cause love is right. You see, I know my knees are right. You see, I know my body right. You see, I know.
Now for the plays we mentioned and when they're closing. Broadway Beacon Awards coming up. Check anything at Don't Tell Mamas. Feinstein's Seal's got his Broadway's Greatest June 23rd. And coming up, Stephen McCaslin presents 54 Sings Henry Sweet Henry, June 14th at 7 o'clock. Nobody Steps on Caffrey's favorite song. Check out EST Studio Theater Marathon and the Weill Project's Club Some Summer Works. 59 East 59th Street, 92nd Street Y all have great stuff going on. Here at Remembering Evangeline looks very good. At La Mama is Nikki's Paradise Lounge going on June 19th at 7:30. Lots going on at BAM still. Playwrights Horizon has Bella. Next show we'll talk about these things, hopefully. And I'm going to let Johnny Orsini at the Theatre World Awards, which he won a few years ago, had the last word on Whirligig, because he made it sound much more better than we thought it did. In the meantime, pick up your Performing Arts Insider, Cultural Heartbeat of New York City, June 24th. Find our Mary Poppins interviews and musical excerpts on our Facebook page and go to our Twitter.
Former drug dealer, I don't know, but I like the story of the play. You know, I grew up in New England, and there's a real opiate epidemic there, and I had friends who I've now lost touch with that were affected by it, and so it meant a lot to me to do the play that actually speaks to this horrible opiate epidemic and how it affects families and things like that, all the while being hilarious somehow, too. So I think Hamish did a great job balancing the humor with, you know, creating that levity with humor opposite a very dark subject. So, but it's been really fun to work on. The cast is amazing, so we have a great time. But,
so you're here back at your stopping by the Theatre World Award.
Yeah, and it's a pleasure to be here too. It's always such an upbeat environment and just universally positive. And everyone's here because they are a winner. You know what I mean? Which is amazing. Feel.